prediction right now because, I noticed right away. I said, oh, fuck. So everybody just takes modern communications, for granted, big time. I'm old enough to remember this. Really? Okay? A phone heavy enough where I got a black eye from my sister dropping one on me. Everyone takes communication as a given. They don't understand what's behind it. So this is how the Ukrainians got in trouble. All communication lines not working. That's why we're relying on Starlink. Thank God we have Starlink. Okay. I'm absolutely grateful that Elon had that system in place when the war started. But see, he put the system in place to make money, not to help anyone. It just so happened he was there. Oh, you see someone on the side of the road, you pop up the hood, here's my jumper cables, thank you, you shake hands, you might become lifelong friends, who knows, okay? It just so happens that your system was the one everyone needed, right? And you don't charge people for helping them. The United States of America bought the fucking stations and you were paying for the system. At least be honest about that, okay? And for what it's costing you, listen, those satellites are going to be there anyway. They're going to be there anyway. It's not like it's costing you that much more to maintain them for the area over Ukraine. The rest of the world is what? A giant fucking headache for you too? No. No. So this is what we need. I guarantee you right now, there's a think tank figuring out either a rapid deployed space type vehicle like a shuttle or something like this that could go up and put itself in a geostationary orbit, put it in geo instead of neo. Rapidly deployable, or a very high altitude balloon system and have our own immediately deployable local, 3,000 miles this way, 3,000 miles that way, 3,000 miles, 3,000 mile radius you could cover. Just a big, giant, powerful transmitter receiver that you could put up in a balloon and guide around. Very easy to motorize balloons. They've known that for a long time. But you could put that up and you could recover them. You could adapt them. You could update them. You can make them very stealthy by covering them with certain materials and shaping them a certain way. They would almost be invisible. Okay? Radio waves, basically, if you make the shell out of the right material, would just pass right through it. And since continuous curvature is how the stealth ability is achieved on the new stealth bombers, is continuous curvature. Angularity was the original one where it was all about deflection of the radio signals, right? So they bounced, but they bounced in different ways so that very little of it made it back to the receiver. But then they found out that instead of having angles, which makes them extremely hard to fly, and they have to, they said, well, let's use, if we're going to have computers fly the airplane, that continuous curvature is better. And that's why there's no angles on these new stealth bombers. They're all smooth. So balloons, that's continuous curvature. That's what we need. So that we don't have to rely on space systems, okay? And the United States military could keep control of that. I'm sure there are systems that have been designed by the, three-letter organizations that protect us, our back asses, you know what I'm saying? In that dark world. I'm sure that they've already have a system that they've tested or have thought about at least, okay? But this is an immediate battlefield deployable internet system that you can control. And it's the nice thing about that, having a one-sided system where you give them base and control stations that distribute, and every day the codes are changed, or they're changed every hour. And then those codes are sent out to the drone units or whatever, or the communications guys, and now their phone is able to communicate. And only this device will update with the unit. See? So it makes it super secure, easily updatable, very, very stealthy, and cheap. Cheap. If they get shot down, it's cheap. Okay, we're just talking about power and maybe like a laptop worth of electronics to keep it secure. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm expecting it. We can't, we can't rely on these satellite systems. Besides, I am absolutely against launching any more shit into space. I have had a great fear of the Kessler syndrome for a long time. We've already had. So listen, Kessler, he made a prediction that by 2022 there would already be 2 collisions in this escalating probability curve. Guess what? We've had 2. We've had 2. Just he predicted it right on the number. That is a scary thought. Because if you follow his prediction, it says that if we continue to launch at the current rate, then it was inevitable. And see, listen, don't listen to the propaganda. There is so much propaganda out there about, oh, well, if you had a stationary object in orbit, then it would probably, be unachievable. But if you just flew right through the cloud, the debris, then you would be fine. I'm like, okay, so why are we doing this? Why are we flying through a giant debris cloud? Where are we going that we are necessary to fly through a possible giant debris cloud? So again, they talked about particles that were the size of my iPad. Okay? That was in the many hundreds of millions. The problem is that there will be billions of pieces the size of my glasses. And then there will be, 10 billion pieces the size of a penny. And then there'll be 100 billion pieces the size of, a dime. And as pieces get smaller, there'll be more and more billions of them until pretty soon everything is like a grain of sand. The problem is they talk about this degradation because there's still a little bit of atmosphere there. But what they found out was a lot of these bigger pieces, the impetus that is provided by these impacts at basically, 40,000 miles an hour, they actually achieve much higher orbits. Large, heavy pieces attain higher orbits because of the energy imparted during the impact, which is just fucking staggering, okay? Think about 2 school buses coming together we'll just say 21, 17,500 miles an hour. That's delta V for attaining orbit. So if you had an object perfectly coming this way and perfectly coming the other direction when they came together, okay, then as the Mythbusters showed, that force would be, imparted to each part double. So it would think that it hit a wall going twice as fast. Now, as long as they just smash up, it's okay, but they don't do that at those velocities. What you do is a lot of it would be vaporized in this explosion, and then there would be more small pieces than big pieces, but you would have enough big pieces, okay, that some of these at those velocities achieve higher orbits. And then those in turn go and cause problems. So this little thin layer they're talking about wouldn't be so thin. So you'd have NEO in the mid orbits, basically covered in trash. The problem is when you start getting down to the sand-sized particles and smaller, okay, they're going to be reflecting sunlight. They don't talk about that. They don't talk about what's going to happen when we have this very fine particle cloud basically cutting off sunlight by a lot. Maybe is 3%. That's enough to turn us into a snowball. 3% is enough to turn us into a snowball. Start glaciers, a new ice age, a mini ice age, if nothing. Can you imagine that? What a mini ice age would do to the civilizations of this planet? How would you grow food? How would you feed people? I mean, okay, fine. So we can, we might be able to get a rocket through it. Who the fuck cares if everyone on Earth starves to death? That's propaganda. That's like the 50-year thing they used to do. It was always, in 50 years this, 50 years, 50 years. Now it's 30 because people are now getting more upset about climate change. It's starting to affect them more. So they had to go from 50 years to 30 years to make it sound like, we're all over it. No. Balloons? Not orbiting debris? Controllable, retrievable, directable, drivable? Quite capable of lifting very heavy loads. Very heavy loads, okay? You remember the Baumgartner capsule, right? How high up that was? You could see the curve of the Earth. My God. So I'm thinking that's probably what they're working on right now, because they realize with the Starlink debacle that we can't leave this in the hands of one individual's petulant attitude.